Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of Legends of Tomorrow. A great season finale. Whole bunch of great stuff went down. So let's break this down. Obviously, you have the whole plan enacted. That's basically because it seems like and ultimately find out what Neron's plan is, and that is that his plan isn't just to take over hell. He's basically going to try and bring hell to Earth and kind of rule over it that way. And so a lot of, things kind of get broken down. Like, it's interesting, too, because this episode kind of brought up something I never really thought of before. Because, Tabitha is like, oh, I bring out a monster's true potential and stuff like that. It's like, yeah. The thing is, like, it's like, oh, Charlie does all this shape-shifting and stuff like that. But it's like, you're more than that. And it's like, what does that mean exactly? Because obviously she just takes on the form of humans. But obviously she can take on other forms as well. I mean, that's the whole point of her being able to shape-shift in other supernaturals. But it's kind of interesting because I don't think it ever really clicked in my head to think, right, what does Charlie originally look like? I think that's, even with the episode playing out the way it does, I still think that's something she's hiding. Like, I think she's afraid for anyone to see what she really looks like, because maybe it's something she's like, it's so terrifying that no one would kind of accept her, they'd look at her differently. I don't know, but I just thought that was kind of a fascinating little thing of that aspect, So I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. It's kind of sad, too, because, you see Charlie kind of, like, regressing. Like, because obviously she was the one always pushing for it to be like, oh, yeah, magical creatures, they're more than what you think. But for her, it's like, after this situation, it's like, the fact is everyone being so afraid after she was kind of forced to kind of transform and go on an attack and stuff like that by Tabitha's hands, it makes her go, like, yeah, the fact is humans will just never see us as more than that. But, like, Sarah's like, no, the fact of the matter is you changed our minds. You made us look at supernatural, magical creatures differently, so all we got to do is do that to the same world. Because I love, like, obviously they're trying to balance everything, like, because on the ship they're trying to keep up with all the magical creatures, keep them in check in a sense of like, oh yeah, like, keeping everyone happy until they can resolve this whole situation. Mona and Gary are kind of going around. I love that the ogre is with Mick, and he's drinking. He ends up beating Mick, and Mick's like, nobody beats Big Mick. No one beats Big Rory, his exact words. It's also interesting, too, how, like, where this idea kind of springs up for them, like, how they figure out how to stop this whole situation is actually with young Zari, because obviously, baby Wixtable ends up, in, young Zari's hands, and then, like, Zari kind of talks about the fact is, she remembers when she was younger, she kind of got picked on and stuff, but it's like, oh, she's super popular because it's like, oh, Wixtable's up there doing tricks, looking cute and adorable, but sadly, it's like, oh, he's a monster and everything, so he gets taken away. But that moment sparked everything, because it's like, hey, we can do what Hank wanted to do. Hey world, we start this amusement park to kind of showcase that, magical creatures aren't just like monsters, that they're a lot more than that. And I like that too, because it's an aspect that kind of, obviously Charlie kind of rallies up, the magical creatures, because it's like, the fact of the matter is, because along with Mona showing them like, hey, there's more to you than that you guys might look scary, but that's not all there is to you. Like the ogre, for example, for him, it's like, I forgot what he said his real name was. Is it like Frank or something like that? But for him, it's like he wants to sing and stuff like that, and I don't know, it's this awesome thing of just showcasing the fact of the matter is these magical creatures are more than just the monsters that everyone kind of thinks that they are. I absolutely love the promotion that they did for it, where you have Sarah dressed up as Supergirl, Nate dressed up as Green Arrow, and you have Gary out of anybody dressed up like the Flash. I feel like if anyone, it would make more sense for Mick, just because he actually has a connection to the real Flash, but still, nevertheless, it's like, yeah, I mean, this is awesome and everything, guys, but wouldn't it be better if we actually got the trio? It's like, we actually reached out to them, but they said no, and I love Nate's line of being like, yeah, we should have done a crossover. I'm like, yes, I love fourth wall breaking stuff like that. That's so good. Oh, that was so good. Because I think I'd seen some promotional material about, like, Sarah dressed up like Supergirl and Nate dressed up like Green Arrow, but I obviously it was out of context, but it's so wonderful to get the context with it and everything. They look so good. It's so awesome, dude. I love it. Just like kind of like that cheesy promotion you're doing for it is so good. It would have been awesome if you could have actually gotten the others, because it would have been interesting to see what they would have done for it, because, it's like, obviously for them, they're awkward and kind of cheesy about it. I'm sure the real thing would have been even more awkward and cheesy. I doubt you would have been able to get, well, depending on where everything takes place storyline wise, Well, Kara probably would have been a good mood. Things aren't great for Barry and Oliver currently where things stand, so it probably would not be. Well, like I said, it depends on when exactly all this kind of goes down, like where in their timeline this is going down, like in particular Barry and Oliver's. But currently, Supergirl's in a good enough mood that I think, like, oh, Kara would have done it. But nevertheless, that's me going on a huge tangent and everything. I also love that, like, it's like, oh, but how are we going to get this built in such a short amount of time? It's like, write that diary that makes dreams come true and stuff. It's like, all right, but we're going to have to rob it from, the Time Bureau, but it's like, oh, Mick is already done. I was like a little sad because I was like, oh man, I thought we put a little bit of a heist aspect to the episode, but it's like, no, Mick has already got it. To be fair, it's like, there's no way you got it that quickly. Maybe he did, but I'd like to think it's like, nah, Mick has had that for a while. He had already broken into her at some point in time and reclaimed it. He had, like, especially because some of it seemed like he was trying to, like, utilize it for his book and stuff like that. His warrior princess character, like, it seemed like, well, she's not a princess, is it? She's a warrior. I don't think she's a princess. But nevertheless, I think he kind of made reference to that character, so I'm thinking like he was utilizing it. Either way, it was just kind of neat. It's just like, oh, no, we need it, so I got it. It's also interesting, too, because this Hey World situation is having an effect on Zari because of what's happening now, because Hey World being a success could change people's minds about magical creatures and humans. It changes a lot of people's perspective on meta-humans as well, so humans won't be as kind of like this, because this situation could have led to definitely like fanning the flames of like the humans versus meta-humans so situation. But that in itself changes Zari's entire life, but that would mean that everything would change, because that would mean that her brother didn't die, so she wouldn't have gone to steal the totem, so she wouldn't have ever met the legends. Basically, these past 2 years, these past 2 seasons would have all been undone. But Sarah being like, no, I'm not going to lose any more legends, so you stay here in the temporal space. That way you won't be affected if your timeline changes and everything, so I did appreciate the fact is that they did, obviously they built Hey World. And I also love the situation of like, when the main event was kind of starting, because it was a conversation I've brought up all the time of like, you never really get to see Sarah in her white canary suit, and it's like, lo and behold, she's in her suit. Even Nate's kind of, suited up for this too. And once again, is that whole thing of like them kind of having to put on a show and everything. It was so good. But while all that's happening, we get a trip, into hell where we have Nora, she's showing up to save Constantine and he's being tortured and everything. And it's like, oh, wait, I didn't know you had a fairy godmother. And she's like, I'm not his, I'm Gary's. And Constantine is like, wow, and I thought I was the one being tortured. It's like, come on now. Everything's good with Gary. We don't need to make any more jokes at Gary's expense. But luckily, they were able to save him. But now it turns into a situation of, okay, so now we need to find Ray's soul to get him back into his body, and they have to work with Astra. And it's that sad situation of, and I was wondering maybe there would be a way around this where he could save Astra by being like, hey, I saved you by, it's also interesting too, because like the whole Desmond thing never circled back around, but I get that's a thing where it's like, yeah, that's probably going to, maybe that could be something potentially in the future of like him finding a way to forgive Constantine, but for now it's like, yeah, I don't see things kind of changing. I mean, he's kind of like, set in his own ways about how he feels right now, which once again is understandable, but still Astra's kind of the same way, kind of, it's interesting how that all works out like that. But like Astra, it's like I grew into who I needed to be, but the fact of the matter is things kind of got a little crappy with Neron running things, so it's like to kind of get back on top of like where I want to be, fine, I'll help you break into like the soul exchange, and she ends up gathering up a whole bunch of coins and stuff like that, which we'll talk about that later. But luckily they were able to rescue Ray, and I love it being like, okay, Ray's going to be tortured and stuff like that. We gotta get to him. And it's like, lo and behold, it's like, oh, he's not being tortured. He's playing giant Jenga, and it's like, okay, this is interesting. And it's like, oh, look who I'm here with a friend. Well, not a friend, former enemy. I was like, wait, what? I was like, at first he was mentioning a friend. I was like, who is it? I was like, who is it going to be? And it's like, freaking Vandal Savage. Did not see that coming. That is freaking awesome, dude. I was like, dude, that is such a great cameo, dude. Oh, that's so freaking cool. And it's like Ray and him are all buddy and stuff. It's just like, oh my God. I would have never expected that, because I brought it up last episode. I would have expected out of anyone, he would have ran into Damien Dark. And I'm still kind of sad, but I guess it would have been too much. But still, I would have expected Nora to end up running into her dad, especially because Neron made such a point of it last episode. But nevertheless, Dude, I would have loved a Damien Dark cameo, but Vandal Savage? Hell yeah, I can get behind that. And I love the whole conversation too of like, man, I don't even know why we were ever enemies. He's like, and Ray's like, well, you were kind of hell bent on, world domination. Plus, you kind of didn't handle the whole rejection thing very well. And he's like, basically, Vandal Savage was kind of like, oh, and kind of simplifying that it was over a girl. And then Nora's asking what girl, and Ray's like, and kind of almost like it doesn't matter, kind of moving past it really quickly. I was like, right, I guess because it's a little awkward because you would have to admit that, like, oh, it has to deal with Hulk Girl, and you and her kind of had a thing, so I guess that's why you were like, oh, and Nora probably like, oh, so it's ex of yours or something like that. So I'm sure he was just trying to avoid that whole awkward conversation in itself, but I still love it. And it's like, oh man, he's like, see you guys again some other time, and they leave, and he's like, man, those guys are awesome. I'm like, oh my god. I love that too. He was supposed to be sitting there to torture him, but it's like Ray being who he is, having the infectious personality he does. Lo and behold, he ended up just talking to the dude. I'm like, wow, that was your mortal enemy at one point in time. But that guy's like, that just shows you how good Ray is at what he does. I mean, he kind of changes a lot of people's hearts, but still. So there is awesomeness with that, but sadly the situation is Ray still needs to get back in his body to, but Neuron's not obviously going to give that up, but there's the whole plan of like, what Ray explained about why he accepted the deal. Because I also thought it was kind of adorable that Nora was kind of getting pissed at me, hitting him and stuff like that. You don't do that. He's like, oh, come on, I had to save my best friend's life and everything, and that starts getting Constantine thinking. It's like, if we can get him to kill Nate, it breaks their bond, so he ends up leaving Ray's body. But obviously Sarah, once again, is like, I'm not going to lose any more legends. She's already lost enough people. She lost Stein, she lost Rip, she lost Snart. Like, lost enough people, over the course of everything, so she doesn't want to lose any more people like that. I mean, plus, that's just talking about the legend. She's already lost enough people in her own life, too, so it's like hey, we're not going to do the Plan B thing. Lo and behold, when the situation happens, though, they try to showcase the monsters and everything, but it's the whole thing that, like, Ava had already brought up before of, like, we can't really do this, because wouldn't that be a little dishonest, because we're showcasing it as kind of a hero thing, but really it's more about the monsters and everything. People didn't appreciate that, because they were more so there for the superheroes and stuff like that. Obviously, Wixtable kind of gets used by Tabitha. I'm wondering, well, when it's all said and done, like, that whole situation plays out the way it does. Side note, holy crap, Tabitha can hold herself against Sarah. That was pretty impressive. But I love it. Like, obviously, I was wondering if it was going to be older Zari that shows up in time. But it's like, she, Wixtable recognizes her. But it's like little Zari that's like, kind of telling him to do a trick, and he does it, and it spins around. It's like, hey, he still remembers her. And lo and behold, what ends up happening? He ends up eating Tabitha. Didn't see that coming. Which I'm curious with that situation. Was it her magic that transformed him in the moment she was gobbled up? He went back to his cute, adorable form, or can he just transform into like a more like ferocious form? It's hard to say with that. I'd assume just because she got eaten, it's like her spell that transformed him like that. Maybe it rapidly aged him, but he went back to being adorable. And Zari's like, hey, come back here. So there's that whole situation. Neuron's trying to perform his plan, but John steps up to him to try and stop him, but Neuron kills him. Or rather, he thinks he does, and it turns out to be Nate, and it's like, no, Nate! And I was like, are we really gonna kill Nate? I was like, no, don't do this! And luckily they were able to finally kill Neuron. I'm sure that felt good for John, but it's like, and Nate's up there with his dad and everything, watching the whole situation, and it's like him being like, I was so worried about things kind of not working out well. It's like me going to the happy place. I was kind of worried to go, because I wasn't sure about you, but it's like, no, I knew that I had faith that you and your band of freaky friends or weird friends, whatever it was he said, would save the day, and lo and behold, you did. I should also note what was really interesting, once again, playing up this whole crossover thing, he had a freaking monitor there. He's just watching nearby, eating popcorn, because I think for him, he's sizing up like, okay, so who else are we going to need to gather up? What else do we need to put in play here for like this crisis that's coming next? So he's eating the popcorn and everything, and I love it because he's shaking his head at I guess he was just kind of like, I guess for him it's like, I'm gonna need real heroes, and he probably came here to test out the legends, and it's like, oh, you guys are terrible at this. Should I really get you? But I think, we watched them sit back long enough to kind of eat popcorn to see how things played out. So the Legends might have changed his mind. I'd love to see that being a part of the crossover where the Legends like, whoa, you're trying to leave us out of this? No, this affects the multiverse. We got to take part of this. He's like, the mess, you guys just screw everything up. I've watched you constantly. All you've done is mess things up. You're kind of a disappointment to the superhero thing. It's like, what? We save the day all the time. We got this, So that's my mindset on it. So I'm curious to see, whether that ends up playing into that. But nevertheless, getting back to it, but it's like fear can, play a role in all this, so why not love? And so, Zari's there, knowing that like her timeline could change because of all of this, but she doesn't care because Nate's in trouble, so she's there by his side, and everyone kind of gathers around and they sing, and John uses the magic to bring Nate back to life. His dad's last words to him is like, I love you, Nate, and pushes him back towards his body, and it's like, yay! It's like, yeah, it's fun, happy times. I love it. It's just like, you have like Nora and Ray there being cute and just kind of like enjoying the moment, and you have Gary reaching over towards Mona, and Mona just pushes him away and goes back to clocking. It's like, once again, Gary gets no love, but it's short-lived because it's like, no, like the fact is if you're here, then the timeline change is going to affect you. And she's like, I couldn't just let you, she loves him, she couldn't just stand by, and the timeline changes and Zari's not there, her brother is, and it's like, no, dude, this is like so sucky and heartbreaking, because at least with the Amaya situation, even though things played out the way they did, at the very least he gets to keep his memories of her, she gets to keep her memories of him. Wait, she doesn't actually get to keep her memories, because didn't they actually wipe her memory? I don't remember. I think it was, if I remember correctly, they had to wipe her memory. If I remember correctly, so that kind of makes that sad. Once again, it's that old conversation I've had before. I actually brought this up during Supergirl, kind of making a comparison to Nia and, potentially, where things could go for Nia and Brainy, because it's like, their relationship is between two people from different points in time, and all of Nate's relationships have been with, a woman from the past and a woman from the future, and it's like you almost feel like it was never going to work out, sadly, because of all of that. And it's kind of a shame, because now he doesn't even remember. Like for a second you could tell it's like something's not wrong, but obviously it's like, oh no, I it's like, yeah, things are good between us, bro. And it's like, Ray, it's like, oh man, I can't believe you sacrificed your life, your soul, so that Nero would kill me. He's like, I figured you do the exact same thing for me. And Nate's like, actually I kind of already did. And he's like, you did. And they're just hugging out, having a bro moment. I also love little references, because obviously, like, one, I love the fact is that Mick ended up getting possessed by Hank again. He was like, I wasn't singing, and he's like, oh my god, is this really what it's come down to? I just love, because it's like, well, Hank had already possessed him before, so he already knew he could do it, so there's that. But my favorite thing is that while everyone's holding hands together and stuff like that, you have Nora being like, didn't they do this last season? And then Ava's just kind of like, well, we're kind of here, part of it now. So I'm like, I love it. Stop breaking the fourth wall. It's so good, because it's like, yeah, because of the whole Bebo situation, they had to bring their hands together. But now it's like man and, human and magical creature alike all come together. So it has that bittersweet ending, because obviously to everyone else it doesn't mean anything, because it's like, oh, everything's fine. I mean, to be fair, Zari grew up fine. I mean, to be fair, I'd like to think like she grew up keeping her like, Wixtable, but it's like, but it's sad that their love story kind of gets undone like that. And it's like, oh, like, I mean, that's what I'm curious too. What does that mean? Does that mean we'll never get Zari? Does that mean like potentially her brother will pass the mantle on to her? It's like, sis, it's time for you to go out adventuring and stuff like that. She's like, this isn't from like, if something's going to happen that kind of make it so that Zari ends up joining the team too. It just kind of undid their love story to a certain extent. Maybe I don't know, because it's just sad that things, they just found their way to each other, and just to kind of lose it that fast, It's sad that things played out like that. Once again, because it makes it worse, because it's like, at least, you won't, neither one of them remember the adventures. She doesn't remember the adventure she had with the Legends. Like, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that entire adventure, it's like, instead of her being there, just put her brother in her place. But I mean, there's a silver lining to it, because it means that her family, didn't have any tragedies, that everything kind of works out, that, Argus isn't around like being all hardcore about, metahumans and stuff like that. So it has its benefits. So there's a good thing too, that everything changed. I mean, because for Zari, this is what she always wanted. She wanted to find the loophole that would change everything for the better without kind of screwing up with time. So she got what she wanted in the end, but still, it's just, it's sad that things played out like that. But, I'm interested to see what this potentially could mean going forward. Legends of Tomorrow has been renewed for a 5th season, and I'd love to see where that, the team dynamic goes forward. Like, obviously, like, potential, like I said, if, like, Zari's brother kind of, is he going to have a lot of the same personality as Zari? Is he going to be different? Like, is that going to be, like, a permanent thing we see next season? Is it going to be a situation of, like, what happens to the magical creatures? Are they just going to be kicking it around society? Like, anytime they go back to the present day or something, will it be like oh yeah, magical creatures are running around, we see some familiar faces, like the puppet or the ogre or the minotaur, like, whatever the case may be. What about that? What about Nora? Because obviously her and Ray, it's like, oh, that's awesome. What about them, being, well, because, does Nora keep the whole fairy godmother thing now that Tabitha's, I mean, to be fair, it was kind of like a put on her, so I'm curious. It'd be so interesting if she kind of got stuck with the fairy godmother thing. Like, she can get rid of the outfit, or maybe Constantine helps her find a way to break free of it, or maybe she's stuck like that going forward. I don't know. I mean, because I was wondering, too, is she going to kick it with the Legends? It's like, well, no, she's part of the Time Bureau, which obviously Ava's taking back control of that. What does that mean for Gary? Gary's probably like in between. Is he going to be kicking it more with the Legends? Is he going to be more of a liaison between the Time Bureau and the Legends? What about Mona? Obviously, she still got her Wolfie side. Is she going back to the Bureau? Is she kicking it with the Legends? Like, so many characters are in between. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with them? Like, what's going to happen? Like, because I was also curious too, like, what's next season going to be like? Because obviously, like, the past 2 seasons have been kind of more in the more, obviously keeping the science fictional angle with time travel and everything, but obviously more on the magical, mystical side of things. I mean, also, what else has changed about Nate's life? Like, without Zari, like, did he find love in some other form or shape or form? Like, what else in her life changed? Like I said earlier, I was hoping, like, Wixtable stated her life and everything, so she might not have, the totem or whatever, but she still has Wixtable. He's still on her life, kind of being like her guardian angel to a certain extent. I think that'd be pretty dope. Because, like I said, the last time we saw, like, she was running after him, so I think he's still going to be in her life. But along with that, there's obviously the whole situation with Astra. Now, that's really interesting. I think Astra's finding her way to kind of, like, rise to the top. Like, I think she potentially is going to try and take over Hell. It's like Neron, is kind of going. Obviously, the head honchos, the Triumph is, still at the top. But I'm wondering if she's more operating in their favor, or is she doing her own thing, like being like, this is my destiny? Because it seems like she's starting to bring back a lot of bad people. Like, we saw her grab like Genghis Khan's coins, Stalin, so she's trying to bring them back to Earth. So I guess next season is going to be dealing with full-blown hell criminals. So I think we're going to be doing a lot more hell related stuff potentially in season 5 and everything. So like I said, with her potentially as like the mastermind, and like I brought it up before, like earlier, it's like her situation didn't play out where it's like, oh, she got saved at the end of the season. It's like, no, her being corrupted the way she is, now it's like, okay, so is it going to be a situation of John has to sacrifice himself to save her? Will it be like a time thing of them trying to go back in time to save her then? But that turns into the whole paradox situation of like, how's that going to play out? I'm curious. Part of me also wonders too, could this be a way to kind of bring Vandal Savage back in a certain way? Like, will we bring him back and it's like, oh, he's not the bad person he was? Or maybe it's going to be like, oh, that whole thing, that was me playing. I don't think they're going to do that, especially because they went out of their way to set that up. But you could see a thing of like, oh, he's considered a very, very bad guy, so maybe like she might try to resurrect him, give him a second chance, but he's actually a good guy. Because even he told the others, he's like, oh, tell the Legends I said hey and stuff like that. So that'd be really, really interesting if we ended up getting him kind of like kicking it with the Legends, or at the very least that awkward moment of everyone being like, wait, what? And Ray's like, no, it's good. We're friends. This is my pal. We met in hell. And then maybe eventually it's like, oh, then it gets revealed it was all a ploy, or maybe something happens that kind of shifts his mind. It's like, you guys treat me like I'm the bad guy, so I'll be the bad guy again. I don't know. I'm kind of going all over the place with that, but I think that'd still be very, very interesting. Like I said, like we tiptoe towards the whole direction with stuff from hell, but I think that's probably going to be like where we really take things next season potentially. Once again, like how the Legends will fit in potentially with everything. Like I said, because the Monitor didn't straight up set up anything aside from him just being there. It didn't really set anything up for like, but I'm assuming they're going to be involved. But like I said, I think it was him just being like, all right, should I even bother with these heroes? We'll see ultimately how everything plays out. I'm excited to see what they have in store for us. Oh, dude, this show gets better and better with every season. I know season 5 is going to be just as wild and lit, and I cannot wait to see what they have in store for us. Especially, like, I'm curious to see, you know, maybe we'll get even more heroes next season too to potentially join the team or kick it with the team. I'd love to see what time periods we end up going to. Because Astro bringing him back, I figured that was going to be like a present day thing, which makes you wonder, do you think that could be like a Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of thing they're setting up there? Like those guys, like that'd be the legend side of things dealing with that. I doubt, like Astro still being the main antagonist, but that'd be like a mainline Legends thing, whereas those people bad people being brought back, it's kind of a crossover thing, or maybe that's a full blown just Legends thing. I don't know. Like I said, I've seen bits and pieces, but I haven't read concretely like how the whole, you know, crossover situation is going to really play out and everything like that. Since they made a point to be like, oh, we kind of didn't show up for the crossover last time, we got to show up for this one, you know? So it's going to be dope to see just how everything plays out going forward into the new season. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.